All right. Eric, we're good? We're good? Okay, thank you. All right. Good evening, everybody. I know we have a large crowd here tonight for the public hearing. So we are going to move into 1.05, which is the public hearing on the proposed closing of Biola Elementary School. What we're going to do is we're going to allow for just a brief overview on everything that we've discussed so far, everything that Dr. Gunderson has presented so far. Give him an opportunity just to give that brief overview again. After that, the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of Dr. Gunderson or other administrators that are here tonight to answer specific questions in specific areas. After that, we will open it to public participation. There is a QR code that I'm going to let Dr. Gunderson explain a little further, but it will allow anyone who wishes to speak the ability to scan that code and have their name added automatically to a list that we're hoping will help expedite what I expect to be a lot of people that want to get up and talk tonight. So, Dr. Gunderson.
Thank you, everyone. Nice to see everyone here this evening. We very much appreciate the public playing a role in this proposal for the restructuring of our elementary school district. So, as Mr. Curran indicated, if you can scan the QR code if you are planning to speak this evening. We have a growing list of folks, and we are trying to keep this meeting productive where we can also maintain some levels of efficiency. So right now we're up to about 17 folks who have indicated that they'd like to speak. So I encourage you to go ahead and scan that QR code. When we put up a graphic, perhaps to answer a question from one of the board members, you'll also see some placards on the side of the cafeteria that also have the QR code. So certainly throughout the meeting, if you feel compelled to say something, please go ahead and scan that QR code. There's one in the back there, one on the side here, and there might be a few other locations throughout the cafeteria as well. We encourage you to do so, and as Mr. Curran said, those comments are going to be limited to approximately 3 minutes, and those are comments only. There'll be a little bit more of a discussion amongst board members asking specific questions. Many of those questions are based on comments that folks have made to the Board of Education in their emails. So if I can just begin by stating essentially what the vision is here for the restructuring of our elementary schools. When I came on board as superintendent of schools, it became clear to me very quickly, and the board shared also their continuing concerns for the enrollment decline, particularly in our elementary schools. And as we shared some additional information with the public, again, based on some of your feedback from some of our community forums and parent meetings, we shared the breakdown of enrollments for the elementary schools and by school. And you could see the overall decrease in enrollment over the last 10 or 11 years, really amounting to about a 25% decrease in elementary school enrollment. Back about 11 years ago, the elementary schools had a population of just under 2,000 students. And right now, we have a population of just about 1,500 students. It's a decrease of 500 students over the last 10 or 11 years. That amounts to about an entire elementary school. So when you look at the graphics that we've indicated and that we've shared out with the public, the reality is pretty stark. Our population of young children is decreasing, and yet we need to do something about it. And of course, from what I heard from day one, starting here at Suffern Central, was don't let Suffern Central make the same mistakes as East Ramapo did. And I've taken that to heart. My team has taken that to heart, and I believe the Board of Education has taken that to heart as well. So we set forth with establishing a vision for what the restructuring will look like. And some of the other information that we received anecdotally from people was lack of consistencies across 5 elementary schools, an overall very high level of satisfaction from parents about their elementary school experiences for their children, but there were consistencies, issues, predominantly issues for the three very small elementary schools. So instead of just listening to anecdotal information from parents, the Board of Education hired a little bit over a year ago, a consulting firm, the DM Group, District Management Group, that specializes in many things pertaining to school districts, elementary school restructuring, and demographics being one of those. And the outcomes of the DM groups, many of you have seen those in some of the graphics that we've shared, but they basically summarize the outcomes in three major bullet points. Number one, families were very satisfied with the services the district provides for its students, but want ever-growing educational outcomes and opportunities for their students. That's good news. Good news is, overall, families are happy with the experiences that their children are having. The other point that they made was the decreasing enrollment and increasing need for additional services is a particular stressor for this school district. Many of you know, who have been here in this district for quite some time, you've seen the demographics evolving in this district, and that's a wonderful thing. We have more and more families that are requiring us to provide more specific instruction for students, not only in the special education arena, but also in learning the English language. And in order to provide instruction for students to become more proficient in English, that requires additional staffing, something that becomes difficult to provide in particularly three very small elementary schools. And then finally, the other big takeaway was that families expressed a real fear for the future. They looked to their neighbors over at the East Ramco School District and wanted to make sure that we did not become a symptom of what took place there over the last 2 decades. So, with that long report that is on our elementary school restructuring website, you can take a look at that. We set forth to create a model that would not necessarily be revolutionary, but that would be similar to some other districts, not only in Rockland County or Westchester County or districts in New Jersey, but something that would be the right fit for Suffern Central. And that ended up being a modified Princeton plan. We call it modified because a pure Princeton plan sends all of its elementary school students to the same school for particular grade levels. What we would do instead, because of our geography and because of our size, we decided to set up a pairing system. So there'd be one pair of schools that would be pre-K through 2, and then those students would then graduate to the grade 3 through 5 school. And then for another section of the district, you would have the exact same kind of model. One pre-K through 2 school with those students going to another 3 through 5 school. So we felt that there were tremendous benefits with this. We felt that this model would create greater supports for all of our students, certainly improved consistencies when now we have 2 schools that are servicing our pre-K through 2 students and 2 schools that are servicing our grades 3 through 5 students, and certainly expanded opportunities for our students because we could provide more because the schools were becoming more efficient. So after over a year of analyzing Suffern Central School District's situation, conducting surveys, thought exchanges, mounting minds meetings, community forums, parent meetings, and fielding countless phone calls and emails, we are ready to move forward with a model that will allow our Suffern Central School District to continue to thrive for the benefit of our students and community, not only today, but into the future. So I am pleased to continue to propose to the Suffern Central School District and Board of Education our proposed restructuring of our elementary school district, which does include the repurposing of Viola School. Viola School, we believe, in our discussions with Rockland BOCES, will become a Rockland BOCES site, and that would be utilized by public school students, not only in Rockland County, but in particular, many of our Suffern Central students would be utilizing that site as well. It would become revenue producing, but most importantly, we would not be selling it to any outside organization for non-public school use. So I am pleased to share that the members of our restructuring core team are here this evening to address some of the questions that some board members may have, and we look forward to hearing the public comments after the board discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gunderson. So I'm going to open it up to the board. Are there specific questions that any board member has for any of the administrative staff that's here tonight? All right, Mr. Donnelly?
We're good? Okay. Dr. Gunderson, my concern is the pairing of the schools. How do we come about reaching or pairing the schools in the way you aligned them?
I appreciate that question. That's a very good question, and it's been a question that I've been asked a number of times. So when we arrived at the recommendation to create a modified Princeton plan, my team and I came up with 3 different scenarios for the pairing of the elementary schools, as you may recall. We spent a lot of time making sure that we were creating the correct type of pairing. There's at least one district in Westchester County that did not pay particular attention to ensuring that there was a balanced level of academic performance, demographic statistics across the buildings that they had structured. So we wanted to make sure that we had similar pairings, similar demographic makeups and academic performance, so that whatever students would experience in the middle school with regards to a demographic and academic performance is what they would experience in an elementary school. So we arrived at this particular model where you see the pairing with Sloatsburg and Montebello, and then the second pairing being R.P. Connor and Cherry Lane. But it wasn't just simply making sure that we had an even spread of not only the number of students, the demographics, and the academic performance, but we also took a look at the facility space. We took a look at the number of classrooms. We also took a look at the types of classrooms that would be, or the types of buildings that would be most conducive to the pre-K through 2 buildings, and then also the 3 through 5. And then also we wanted to take a look at the transportation efficiencies. So if you take a look at, let's start off with the bottom right there, R.P. Connor and Cherry Lane. R.P. Connor School is a school that is truly conducive to a pre-K through 2 building. It screams the little kids. R.P. Connor is a larger, I wouldn't say imposing by any means, but it's a larger, more sophisticated looking building, which has a classroom structure and a facility structure, whether it's gymnasiums or libraries, that are more conducive to older students, older elementary school students. And their proximity to one another makes a lot of sense. Take a look at Sloatsburg and Montebello, same thing. Sloatsburg is absolutely conducive to being a primary age elementary school building. Montebello, in particular, because it's right next to and shares a campus with the middle school, is more conducive to a grade 3 through 5 student population. But one of the tricky things, as I don't have to tell the Sloatsburg folks, is because Sloatsburg is further away than most of our other buildings here, which building do you really pair Sloatsburg up with? And so we were taking a look at Sloatsburg being paired up with Montebello, or should Sloatsburg be paired up with R.P. Connor? Never thinking that Sloatsburg should be paired up with Cherry Lane, right? That's too far. And what we considered was not only the specific aspects that I talked about before, but we also talked about the transportation distance. So Montebello is about less than a mile further away from Sloatsburg Elementary than R.P. Connor. However, when you look at the traffic patterns and how to get from Sloatsburg to R.P. Connor, it's a more efficient transportation route to get students from Sloatsburg Elementary to Montebello, and vice versa, by the way. There are more routes to take if there are accidents or tie-ups or construction, as opposed to having students either from Sloatsburg or from the center of Suffern go to each of either Sloatsburg or R.P. Connor, because basically you have to go right through the middle of town of Suffern. You have to go through Lafayette, which does slow down the process. So that's essentially, in a nutshell, why we came up with this particular pairing.
Just a quick follow-up, Dr. Gunderson. Was there any thought given to these pairings and future demographics, like change demographics down the road, let's say 5 years, 10 years, did that factor in any way to the decision? Because I've thought about that a little bit.
Yeah, we absolutely did. And that was one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that, at least to start, that we were on a similar playing field. And we feel like the demographics, they certainly may change, but what was so interesting is when you look at the demographics across the entire district, they're quite uniform across the entire district. Our English language population up in the Biola catchment zone isn't too far off from what it is in the center of Suffern or in Sloatsburg or Cherry Lane. It's a rather distributed set of demographics statistically throughout the district, including our socioeconomic levels. Our free and reduced lunch numbers are fairly spread out and equitable throughout the entire district. It really is a fascinating concept, because in many districts you'll have neighborhoods and pockets where you'll have students who struggle financially and other neighborhoods where they truly thrive. But more and more over the last 10 years, we've seen that become more equitable across the entire district.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a
Mr.
question, yes.
Mr. Frazier?
One thing I've been thinking about, Dr. Gunderson, is not knowing how the board is going to vote. What happens if we decided against this plan? What would that look like?
If the Board of Education decided not to move forward with the restructuring plan, then that would be another year of inefficiencies, another year of inconsistencies across the district, another year of students not truly receiving the services that they need. And as this board is going to knows and is going to have a recommendation at our next board meeting, right now we have an unexpected need for an additional part-time E&L teacher at Sloatsburg, a part-time E&L teacher at Cherry Lane, and a part-time E&L teacher at RP Connor, because of the recent increase in students moving in to those catchment zones that need those additional language services. By restructuring, we will already have those staff members in place. And because particularly those two buildings, Sloatsburg and Cherry Lane, and also Biola, are so small, they don't have the cushion of staffing in those buildings that can absorb those needs. So there'll be additional inefficiencies like that. And also, we have COVID funding, as you know, that's going to be expiring at the end of this year, which is going to mean that the financial support that we received from the state and the federal government for a total of 6 different positions, primarily for counselors, social workers, and instructional facilitators, is not going to be there anymore. And so if we want to continue that level of service for our students, we're going to have to fund that as a district, not receive that money from the state. But the real issue is, it would be another year of continued inefficiencies when I believe our students deserve to have those academic opportunities and those consistencies that we've talked about for the last several months.
Other questions? Dr. Nippon?
Dr. Gunderson, I do understand the concept of the restructuring, and my main concern with it is the transportation issues. And, you know, pretty much daily as a board, we get letters from families now having issues with transportation. My concern is the stress that this restructuring is going to put on a system that's already not performing 100%. So I really want clarification, insight, transparency into what is being done to rectify that, and scenarios, run times, you know, numbers of buses, things like that, I think is very important aspect of this plan. And there's a lot of unanswered questions. I think, you know, Billy.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And certainly that is one of the biggest questions that's out there, is how is transportation going to support this? I'm going to ask our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, who does oversee the transportation department, to address some of your concerns.
Absolutely. So that was one of our concerns, and that actually goes into looking at the pairings of the schools as well. One of the things that we sat down and we looked at was just to see how we could accommodate these inefficiencies, knowing that we're going to have one less school to provide for. Obviously, we have students there, but we're able to work on route simulations, which we've begun to conduct and have completed some of them already. And with those route simulations, we are looking at 30-minute routes. We're going to also have additional busing available to us through our less of a need to provide. Currently, we have special ed programs for located in different buildings. With the restructuring plan, we will have similar programs in both buildings. Therefore, we will not need additional busing to bring a child from Cherry Lane out to the Sloatsburg program, out to the Viola program. So because we have all these additional buses kind of running back and forth, now these students will be able to get on the bus with their neighbors and attend the same schools as their neighbors. So looking at really kind of doing a complete overhaul with our system now, we'll be able to free up some additional buses and provide those routes.
Was there an accounting of the actual number of buses needed and therefore number of drivers needed? Because we constantly hear that there's a shortage of drivers. You know, conceptually, Viola's not going to receive students, so you would think that those buses would be freed up. But has that been accounted for in any work that you guys have done?
It has. I don't have those exact numbers with me, but that's something that we can work on getting to Dr. Gunderson to provide to the board.
So that's been looked at specifically?
Yeah, specifically, right. I can tell you that we looked at one of the, knowing which option we were going to look at. Since the proposal, we decided to sit down and look at one of those simulations, and we were able to do that. And I was pleased to see that through the routing, the longest route was 30 minutes. So which those efficiencies are actually a little bit better than what we're running now.
So, Mr. Castellane, Dr. Castellane, I do know that we have talked about a complete revamping of the transportation routes for the elementary schools, but we are not going to do a complete overhaul of the high school and the middle school. So the high school, when you look at the starting and ending times, high school will still be first, middle school will be second, then the grade 3 through 5 buildings will be transported, students will be transported to them, and then the pre-K through 2 grades will be transported. But specifically for that elementary school structure, we are completely revamping the routes to make sure that there are those efficiencies. It would be foolish for us to go ahead and simply take this year's structure, which you indicated has issues, and just stick it into a reworked elementary school model.
And I do have another question.
Yeah.
I just would like some clarification on the enrollment data that was used. I know a lot of people have commented on the DM group using enrollment data from 2013 to 2021. Can that just be clarified and updated for everyone to see?
Sure. I think I'm going to ask Mr. Breen to go ahead. Mr. Breen has been coordinating a lot of this effort. Let me pull up a graphic that might address your concerns.
So there's a slide containing all the different schools, color-coded, and you can see we've added the last 3 years just to bring everything up to speed with what the DM group used. And when the DM group did their study, they used the state reported data so that it was authentic, you know, and this I can guarantee is authentic right up until last week for this year. So, and again, it all shows a decrease overall up to this year, 25% in the elementary division.
So those raw numbers, those last 2 years do verify as still a 25% decrease?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Breen. And if I can highlight, I've had some questions. I know the board's had some questions, which have been something like, well, why don't you close the smallest elementary school and just shift those students to the other schools? If you look at the smallest elementary school, at least right now, it's a tie between Sloatsburg, which actually has a slightly higher enrollment. It's a little bit difficult to see it there on the graph, slightly higher enrollment than Cherry Lane does right now. But simply wouldn't make sense to divert the students from the fringes of the school district into their next closest schools. Because if you take a look at it, RP Connor is your highest populated school, which is where students from Sloatsburg would be diverted to, or they'd be diverted to Montebello, the second highest enrolled school. And we were perpetuating the challenges and the issues we have with educational programming across the board just by staying at the status quo. So it doesn't make any sense to close Sloatsburg. And by the way, Sloatsburg is the most consistently attended school district, school building out of all of them right there. And some folks may say, well, Cherry Lane has had a more precipitous drop in elementary school enrollment than Viola. But what we're not seeing there in the data on this graph is that this district several years ago, because they saw that Viola school, particularly in the 17-18 school year, had a massive drop in population. What they started to do after those years of seeing that that decline continue is a few years ago, the district increased the catchment zone. In fact, going as far down into the center of Suffern to capture students and bus them all the way up to Viola to keep Viola a viable school. You'll have students that are all the way down by the Sheldon and further south of there going up to Viola School. And that was done in an effort to keep Viola School populated enough to stay open. And that's one of the reasons why we've made the decision to close Viola School, is because there's fewer and fewer families moving into that area, that catchment zone, taking advantage of public schools. And Viola has more heavily been relying on Suffern, the village of Suffern students to populate Viola School.
Any other question?
I know that we spoke, the board, you have spoken, the administration has considered protecting our teachers. That's messaging that has been conveyed to us. And I think, Mr. Donnelly, you've asked about that in the past. And I think it's so important, and I'm glad that we covered that. What I haven't heard and what I haven't asked is what the teacher's attitude is toward the restructuring, toward the Princeton plan associated to academics and social emotional well-being for our students. And because they're really the ones that see the day-to-day and that have a better idea of how the students can be affected by it. So I'm curious if you've heard anything from our elementary teachers.
Yes, I certainly have. I'm going to ask our Director of Communications and Community Outreach, our Community Engagement, Ms. Mermelstein, to get up and speak about some of the survey data that we've received from teachers. And then maybe Mr. Breen, if you can come up and also talk about how we're engaging staff members from all the bargaining units as well and different responsibilities in the planning stages, assuming the board moves forward with an approval for this plan.
Thank you. Look, certainly I'm not a teacher, so I'm not speaking as them, right? But I have been in the buildings and we've been doing a lot of talking with teachers and staff members, so beyond the teachers, but staff members as well. And, change is hard, right? So we all approach change in a different way, and there's some sadness and there's some, teachers feel really deeply rooted into the schools that they've been in. Some of them have been teaching in the same school for their entire career. So we are not, that has been a topic of conversation for sure. But what we're also hearing is a lot of excitement around how these changes can potentially help not just them, not just their students, but also, each other as staff members. So we did a thought exchange where we asked specifically staff members to provide anonymous feedback on the proposed restructuring. And we got things like, they're looking forward to collaborating with their colleagues on a little bit deeper level. Right now, most of our schools have 2 sections, some have 3, but more and more 2 sections of a grade level. And so they meet with their entire district grade level twice a year. once or twice a year. Otherwise, they're on their own to find that collaboration with each other. I was speaking to one fourth grade teacher who was like, "Wow, I'll get to be with 4 or 5 or 6 other teachers in my grade. What will that look like for our students, for our projects, for all of the ways that we can collaborate, in the classroom?" So that was a big one. Staff that is split between buildings now will be able to be consistently seeing their kids at the same building all the time. That's in particular with clinicians and special staff that have to be split. A couple other things, they believe that, students sometimes need more than 1 or 2 teacher options to jive with the content, with the classrooms, with the learning. So the opportunity for students to have the ability to move around potentially if a teacher isn't working with a student in particular, or also at each grade level, not just being with the same 30 to 50 students for 5 years, but really giving an opportunity to mix around. I have to say, our teachers and our staff members but that's what makes this school, right? That's what makes this district. They really, 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 really care about our kids. And the conversations that we're having is like, yeah, of course we're going to be there for our kids and support the students and be there to help them transition and be that smiling face. So while there's discomfort in this change, there is a lot of hope and there's a lot of excitement. The other thing that we did, real quick, I'll touch on, is that we just launched our survey to all of our staff to provide feedback on, if this goes through, where do you want to be? Want to stay in your grade level? Want to go somewhere else? Do you have a co-teacher that you're interested in staying and working with? We're really involving them in that process from the beginning, and I think we have over 200 responses already around preferences for next year, which include, some people using some certificates that they might not be using right now as well. So they've been involved in the conversation, and I think they're going to continue to be. And Pat, you want to talk about what you're doing? All right.
So having been around a while, can't believe I'm saying that. One of the mistakes made in the past, when I recall, is when 5th grade was moved, 6th grade was moved up to the middle school, and there was very little teacher input as to how that went down. What we're looking to do is create transition teams, a representative from each unit in the district, teacher, custodians, nurses, everybody involved at every building level to meet with us so that we have our ear to the ground and hear any concerns they have during this entire process. So that's a very important piece. It's an informal dialogue, conversation. It's really to make sure that they're being heard, we're listening to them and moving the process along. As a matter of fact, we have our first meeting scheduled for the first week in November. So that.
Mrs. Hodge, did you have anything else?
I'm good.
You good? No. You. Okay.
Okay, so my first question is actually a 2-part question about the libraries. Will the school libraries be reconfigured for the students that are now in different grade levels, the upper school versus the lower elementary school, or the primary versus the upper? So that's the first question. And then also, will we be able to hire true library and information science professionals to work in those libraries?
Ms. Weber. Ms. Weber is our Assistant Superintendent for Instruction, if you'd like to take on that question, because we've had a lot of conversations about what the possibilities are.
So your first question about the libraries is, of course, there'll be, some commonalities. There are tons of books that are appropriate for both 2nd graders and 3rd graders, but we again have 5 libraries worth of books, so we'll be able to distribute the books so that we have more, a bulk of more appropriate resources for each level. For the second question about thinking about bringing librarians back, interestingly, on the survey that Mrs. Mermelstein mentioned, several of our current staff members who are certified librarians indicated that they would have an interest in doing that if that were an option. In addition, we do see scheduling options in the grade banded environment. We can really fine tune and specialize our encores to meet the needs of the students in the building. We do believe that some of the efficiencies that we'll pick up in classroom staffing will allow us to explore some more specialized encores, such as library, STEAM, performing arts, possibly additional PE or intramural activities, or additional movement opportunities such as yoga or mindfulness and things like that. So we are very excited about the opportunity to be able to fine tune the schedule and reallocate our staffing to provide some specialized options for students.
So I also have a question about school lunch and school breakfast and just food service in general, whether the options will change depending on what type of elementary school they're serving, and what maybe we can expect if that transition takes place, what the students will be able to get for food service.
Dr. Castellane, who also oversees the food service program, if you could go ahead and address that question as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually kind of an exciting question, and might not sound exciting, but it is. As a former principal of Sloatsburg, you're in the cafeteria all the time, and you definitely notice a difference between what the younger students are eating versus the older students. The younger students might not be eating as much, or they might be eating you'll see maybe chicken nuggets fly a lot faster than you would hamburgers for the older kids. Just picking things out. And you'll see the older kids always wanting seconds or more. So I think this is a great opportunity for, should we move forward with the restructuring process, to really sit down and have a conversation on what that looks like with the individual buildings, because now we'll be able to, again, back to the efficiencies, we'll be able to focus that menu in the K2 or the pre-K through to schools, and we'll be able to focus a different menu for the 3-5s, similar to elementary school versus high school. At times we have different things and we have different portions. So we could definitely look at that.
Thank you. And if I can just add on to that as well, thank you, Dr. Castellane. In addition to simply the school lunches, really, as Ms. Weber also indicated, this allows us to really reimagine what the schedule looks like for the primary grades versus the intermediate elementary grade levels. Right now, as I've said to a variety of folks when I've met with parent groups, is that the music instruction really drives our schedule throughout the entire district, because particularly, again, in 3 very small elementary schools, you have part-time instrumental band teachers, and you have part-time instrumental orchestra teachers, string teachers, and the entire schedule revolves around their availability to that school. Now, we won't have a band or a strings teacher at the primary grades. They'll be exclusively at the grades 3 through 5 buildings, and we won't have to have a schedule become developed revolving around music. Music will be fully embedded. In fact, some of the early band and early orchestra opportunities that some students take advantage of right now requires them to get to school before school starts, a burden for many families, and it limits the number of students that can be a part of that program. We're expecting those programs to take place during the school day, again, because the schedule will not be dictated by the music program, but music will be an integral part, because the 2 teachers, the strings and the instrumental band teachers, are going to be in those buildings all day long, every day. So that's just another example of how the schedules will be adjusted that will really enhance those opportunities for students.
Okay, I also have a question about special education. Right now, among our buildings, a lot of professionals are shared between buildings, whether it's speech pathologists, social workers, other professionals in the district. I was wondering, with this type of restructuring, how would that change as far as their daily availability to students in their buildings?
I'm going to ask Dr. Castaldo, the Assistant Superintendent for PPS, who oversees our special education department, to share a little bit of insight about what's possible with regards to this restructuring in special education. So go ahead.
I'm glad you asked that because we've had a lot of questions about special ed. Special ed is built on the students' IEPs. The programs are built on what children need. With the current reconfiguration, if you vote to do that, we will be able to staff fully all of the programs that we've always had. We'll be able to provide synergistic team teaching, so integrated co-teach for the students that have that, specialized instruction and support for the students that are in self-contained classes. I know there's a lot of questions because we have 3 bridge classes that are 2-3. So obviously as a parent, you're saying, okay, so what happens there? So in special ed, we can have up to 3 grade levels in a class. So we may build K1-2s if that's what the building needs, and 3-4-5s, or we may be able, to configure that differently. A lot of it's going to depend on the students and where they are sitting and what their IEPs need. And again, those IEP needs are determined at those CSC meetings. You'll be going to the annual meetings. We'll be able to explain a little bit more what that will look like. We've already run the numbers. We've already been able to figure out basically how many students will be in each of the buildings. And we can more than adequately staff that and additionally have those related service providers like speech therapists, OT, so the occupational therapists and the CODAs. The PT will always be shared. That's one district-wide person. But the OTs, the CODAs, the psychologists, the social workers, all of those support staff will be able to have one in each building at this point. So we're really excited about that. Again, these programs are going to be built on what your children need. So I can't tell you exactly what it looks like, but I can tell you that we can give comparable services for special ed in each of those 4 buildings, and it will look like what your child needs the most. Any other questions on that?
All right, thank you. So are there any other questions from any other board members? Before, okay. I just have one question that that came up. We were talking about the transportation and stating how the start times for the high school, the middle school would stay the same. Now, those of us who have had kids in elementary school here, for the most part, have had to deal with the early shift, late shift that alternates every couple of years. And I know you said just a little while ago that the staggering would be high school, middle school, and then 3-5, then K2. So my question is, by reducing the number of buildings from 5 to 4, is it necessary to stagger the 2 levels? Or is it possible to have the transportation runs for elementary as a whole on one schedule?
I'll go ahead and grab that. So if we had an elementary school restructuring plan that was a pure Princeton model, where we had, although these would be larger student enrollments than any of our buildings could support, but if we had one K-2 building and one 3-5 building, we'd be able to support all the elementary school students starting and stopping at the end time. But because we have to transport students to 4 different elementary schools still, we don't have the capacity to have the pre-K through 2 and the 3-5 buildings, all 4 of them start and end at the same time. There is some more staggering. However, we will not have to alternate every 2 years. So does that answer your question? Okay. So the quick answer is no. We will have to have the 2 different tiers of start and end times in order to support that.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move into the public hearing portion of this. Now, a couple of things that I want to say before we start. So we are trying this, the QR code, and I know we have a list of speakers so far. Dr. Gunderson has that list. I'm not sure how many we're up to. So far, 21 people have indicated that they wish to speak. We are going to, we'll read off the names and you can come up and speak. We'll read them in the order in which they were submitted. I do have to ask that you keep your comments to the 3 minutes as indicated in policy 1230. A lot of times we do try to give leeway, but with 20 speakers that we know of, we need to keep those comments to 3 minutes. So I will keep time over here. I will let you know when you're, 20 seconds left as an indication to please start wrapping up your comments. I know a lot of people have prepared statements. I see a lot of people in the crowd with papers. So just please be mindful as you're reading your prepared statements of the time. I do want to make clear also, this is not a question and answer portion. This is simply the public's ability to speak to the board and to the district with your questions, concerns, any specific questions that you might have that can be answered by administration. We will answer you privately. When you do approach the podium, we're going to have your name already, but please state your name for the record and your affiliation with the district. I do want to make a point also, just in case not everybody here is aware, that the board vote on this proposal is not going to be tonight. We did push that back last week to the next board meeting on November 7th. So we will not be voting on this proposal tonight. I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And lastly, we know this is an emotional topic for a lot of people, whether you're in favor of it or not. And what I would ask is, when you come to the podium, be respectful, please keep it civil. You have every right to state your opinions, but we ask that you please do so in a respectful manner. And as per policy, please do not state any faculty by name or students by name. All right? All right. So I'm going to let Dr. Gunderson read off the names.
Stephen Alpert.
Hello, I'm Stephen Alpert, a village trustee in Suffern, and as part of the village board, we worked with our mayor to produce 2 back-to-back budgets with 0% tax increase. It is my opinion the Suffern schools have a similar opportunity here to considerably lower the excessive tax burden on area residents, and I'm hereby requesting that the superintendent work with the school board to find those savings, including offering incentives if a school is closed to encourage the early retirement of employees that are no longer needed to provide the current level of educational excellence that Suffern Central schools are known for. Due to the declining enrollments noted by the superintendent, I am in favor of closing an elementary school if we in turn pass the resulting savings on to residents in the form of lower school taxes. However, I am against implementing the modified Princeton plan, which should involve grouping elementary school students into fewer schools based on their age. The modified Princeton plan is instituted because there would only be 4 remaining elementary schools if Viola is closed. At any grade level, there would only be 2 potential schools available for each student, with enrollment determined depending on location in the district. This will on average greatly increase the transportation time for most students in the district, which I see as a hard negative and will further encourage many families with public school age children to move out and seek to live in other districts with neighborhood schools. Many students, even kindergartners, may have half-hour rides to school depending on their particular bus route. If the modified Princeton plan is instituted, I would expect a greater percentage of a greater percentage of parents will elect to instead drive their kids to school, causing more traffic on our roads, not to mention the corresponding greater danger for our students based on typical traffic statistics of more cars. Furthermore, I would expect a greater than current percentage of parents with elementary age students to make the decision to move out of the district, speeding up the very enrollment changes that are being addressed here tonight. I would also expect that potential buyers with public school age children will think twice about moving into a district without neighborhood schools. Not to mention that under the modified Princeton plan, even if the elementary school were nearby for a young new family, that would only be the case until second grade. Consequently, I would expect the majority of potential buyers of properties in this district will be from communities that do not utilize public schools, leading to further school closures down the road. It would seem to me that running 4 pre-K to 5 schools with grades pre-K to 5 as they are now would not cost any more than running the same 4 schools split up differently by age under the Princeton plan. Couple that with the fact that some of the classrooms, such as the kindergarten rooms, would no longer be used for kindergarten age students. They would need substantial, perhaps
20
costly
seconds.
renovations to accommodate different groups. I'm going to skip way ahead. I'm sorry that it's basically, I had a lot to say, and I really feel bad that I can't. Keep in mind, to quote the 1992 presidential candidate Ross Perot, there will be a giant sucking sound of families with elementary school age children leaving the district if you implement the modified Princeton plan.
Thank you.
Renee Vogel.
Hello. I just want to say, so my son goes to RP Connor right now, and he struggles academically, so much so to the point that he doesn't want to go to school. And now you're thinking about taking him out of a school that he is semi-comfortable in with the team that helps him, to put him in a brand new school that he'd have to almost start over from scratch. And I feel that maybe if you were to go to the elementary classrooms and you ask these poor kids, do they want to move schools? I guarantee a big portion would probably say no, because they are comfortable where they are. They like the group, they like the principals, and I'm not putting any schools down by any extreme way. I just feel like they're creatures of habit, and when people keep telling me children are resilient, I don't always believe every child is resilient. And as adults, we can process, okay, we got to switch jobs, we got to switch offices, we have to have new, bosses, fine. But children do not do that change. COVID should have been an eye-opener for these poor kids that had to do everything online or whatever. Also, I know a big question is with the busing. I'll give you an example. I live close to the village, and my child's bus had him at Sutter's Mill because he sat here and said he couldn't find his way back. And the aide then blamed the children on the bus, saying they distracted the driver. So in a perfect world, you feel this busing is going to work great. I feel in reality, it is not. It's going to be a mess. Route 59 is a mess. The back roads are a mess. I just feel like in a perfect world, yeah, numbers would work, but reality, I don't think it's going to. And that's just my opinion. I can only speak for me and my child and my family. Thank you.
Andrea Baroche.
My name is Andrea Baruch, and I'm the mother of 3 elementary school children in Suffern. My husband and I have worked tirelessly to become educated on the pros and cons of the district's proposal, investigating other school systems and compiling data. We've overturned every stone possible and will use all avenues available if our voice is not heard. As a professional, I have sworn an oath to first do no harm. Tonight, I challenge you, the Board of Education, to do the same, because our children's educational, emotional, social, and physical safety are jeopardized by this proposal. First, educational safety. We will lose the faculty knowledge base from K through 5 principals and special teachers such as music, gym, and art. I watch our principal use knowledge collected over 6 years to advocate for children throughout their elementary education. Grade banding also requires additional school transitions, which research shows prevents continuity and lowers the academic ceiling. Additionally, data shows that the academic performance always suffers in the year following a school transition. Coupled with time already lost from COVID, don't we owe our students better? Emotional and social safety. Siblings provide support, companionship. 82% of children under 18 have at least one sibling. Our families will be impacted with sibling split, not just 13.5%, as had been repeatedly mentioned. Viola students will lose half their friends to another school and will be further divided among 6 or 7 classes. Students lucky enough to have 12 close friends may wind up with only one in their class under this proposal. Research shows that it takes over 200 hours in 3 months to make close friendships. Not only will children lack time to make meaningful friendships, but their current bonds will be diluted. Proponents say children are resilient. Just because they can be, does that mean they should be? Does my kindergartner need to show resiliency by being forced into 3 different elementary schools in less than 3 years? Do IEP students need to start from scratch, developing new relationships with their support teams and having their teachers relearn which techniques work best? In regards to physical safety, busing is problematic. Make no mistake, every minute our child wastes on buses is a minute of poor supervision, increasing the probability of emotional and physical bullying. As we all know, children have gotten injured in and around the bus route. Adding routes for siblings now split will mean additional children waiting outside with their parents, increasing danger. Presumably, the district is already doing their best in getting our children to and from school. How is it possible for a system that is already broken, a system where children are already getting picked up and dropped off late, to improve with additional routes and longer distances traveled? Other districts took 2 to 5 years to implement grade banding, as is seen in Rome, New York, or Hewlett-Woodmere. Are we expected to take a leap of faith and gamble that in the span of 10 months, we will be able to set up robust extracurricular activities, reimagine a PTA, orient our teachers, families, and students to maintain continuity, educate teachers on IEPs, and solve busing? I am not. As Joe Pesci exclaims in the movie My Cousin Vinny, how can it take you 5 minutes to cook your grits when it takes the entire grit-eating world 20 minutes? Perhaps the physics cease to exist for our district as they did on that chef's stove. I am not willing to gamble that our district can pull it together in 10 months what it took others years to accomplish, and the future of my children's education is not for sale to BOCES. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Please don't say that busing under 30 minutes and extra unsupervised time won't be a problem when we already can't get our students to and from school correctly. Please don't wave a carrot at us, citing that things may happen. A school play, extracurriculars, we have those things. Please don't say our children will have more friends. With thousands of hours put into friendships already made that will now be torn apart, they will not.
20 seconds.
Ultimately, I know my child will be okay because they are resilient, strong, and adaptable, but you, the Board of Education, owes us just more than just okay. In making sweeping changes such as these, you all of us a clear, detailed, and transparent plan forward. A plan that is not based on leaps of faith, fear tactics, and promises of a brighter future. The community in Rome, New York is being afforded the opportunity to vote on grade banding and their children's future. You owe us the same right. Because ultimately, every single one of us is responsible. I need to look my children in the eye and tell them I did everything I could to ensure their educational, social, and emotional success. I implore you to do the same thing. Read our paper, educate yourselves, and hold yourselves in the district accountable before you make any decision on our children's future. Please, first, do no harm. I ask you to vote no on this recommendation and any future like it. Thank you for your time and attention.
Rose Schmidt.
Good evening. My name is Rose Schmidt, and I'm from Sloatsburg. I just want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak to you again this evening. With all the negative reasons for changing the Suffern Central Elementary Schools being posted, I wanted to give a different perspective on the proposed change. And yes, I will have 4 kids impacted by this plan, and at one point having 4 kids in 4 different placements. While transportation is still my biggest concern about the proposal, as it is with many parents, I believe there are so many benefits being overlooked, mostly due to the raw emotion we are all feeling about the change that would be occurring in the next year if this was to be put in place. One of the biggest concerns with this district and most districts around the country is equity for all students. I think this plan is tailor-made to make sure all students are receiving a similar education, provided with similar programs and supports, and allowing for teachers to be able to be on the same page when it comes to educating our children. I also believe, from all the meetings I've attended, the reason the schools were paired the way they were was to make sure all buildings were similar in sizes, socioeconomic status, diversity, and special ed E&L services. Isn't what we want as parents and as educators to make it possible for our students to be on or as close to the same playing field as all the others as entering the same grades. Let me give some examples of how I think this will benefit all students in our district. It has constantly been said that through this process, the students will not necessarily have access to all programs, but what about the students who do not have access to those programs we have in place right now? One program that not all students have the ability to participate in is the instrumental music program the district offers. Since there is not a need to have a dedicated person at each school, the programs are offered in the mornings or after school. If a parent cannot provide transportation for that student, they are not able to join their classmates in being able to be part of a great district program. I leave my house no later than 6:15 in the morning, so I know that if I did not have my husband able to take care of the kids in the AM, my son would not be able to do this program next year, which is a real shame. With this plan, we would be able to have a permanent teacher in each of the 3-5 buildings, allowing the program to be built into the day so all students who want to participate would be able to. What a win. Special education self-contained programs are ones that are currently offered in not all of our elementary schools. Students who need specialized support are put on buses away from their neighbors and peers and sent to whichever school has that particular program for them. This is a struggle for those kids who are already struggling with learning, behavior, or other problems, who are now being told they cannot go to school with their next door neighbors because, well, you have problems. This plan would allow all those students to go to the same schools, and they would those who play outside with on a regular basis, since there would be the numbers to support those programs in various schools. Same would be for E&L services, as well as the possibility for bringing a bilingual program
20 seconds.
to more than one school. So I just wanted, all right. I still maintain that this will only strengthen our district, even if our enrollment was not declining, even if our communities weren't changing. This plan to help all kids in the same programs and support that they all deserve. Yes, it will be an adjustment, but I think if we work together as a community, as a district, and as a school, we will be providing a better product for our students. As I've stated before, we all end up in Suffern. We all enjoy the events through our communities and our district. We should all come together and take this time to share our traditions and history and become the one Suffern we claim to be. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oren Baruch.
Good evening, board members. My name is Oren Baruch. Thank you for inviting us. I'm a father of 3 elementary school children here in Suffern. I'm here today to express my opposition to the proposed grade banding and closure of Biola Elementary School. I've spent the last few months educating myself and others more times than I care to count. I've expanded my vocabulary to include words like catchment zone, which I swear I've never once used before. I've attended many of these presentations. I've heard this multiple times. Every time it starts the same way. Every time it starts with, how are we gonna get our kids through the school? Are you gonna make it, right? This presentation, this plan is exploiting our fear of something which it does not fix. Respectfully, all of you can be voted out in a year or two, bring in a new plan, and nothing will change or something new will come into place. This proposal is enacting exactly what we fear most. We're closing down our schools and letting money drive our children's education. We're clearly rushing to implement this to accommodate Rockland BOCES. If Viola was so desirable, perhaps we should be leaving it to our children. Respectfully, none of the board members, at least that I can see, on any of the platforms you ran on, said anything about this. I know that we voted for many of you. I didn't see anything about this, even though it's been getting discussed for the last year. We're concerned that 2 of you are trustees on a village board. That seems slightly like a conflict of interest to make a decision for a small village when you have to make a decision for the entire community as a whole. As was brought up, Rome, New York is going through something similar. They afforded their families and their children an ability to vote. There's clearly a template for that, and I feel that you should offer it. We are being asked to do this in 10 months. Out of all the grade bonding models we've looked at, and there have been many, 2 to 3 years, some 5 after the vote is passed. It seems like it would be ill-advised to move at such a great pace. And research shows that in the first years of transition, academics suffer, and which will be compounded by longer and longer bus rides, losing friends, siblings, and they may not see any of the benefits in this first year while we're all trying to figure out and learn. This district will tell me, wave and say, the benefits of this plan. They will point to the community and say what it needs. The blueprint of this plan is something that we've seen all over the country, all over the region. Other grade branding presentations show how communities need similar things. DM Group, which you've hired to do this, I'm sure has used, and I've seen many of the presentations have the same bullets, the same fonts. I know I have 20 seconds. You don't have to say it. Use the same bullets, the same fonts, the same slides that we've seen. Perhaps you've seen Henry Hudson, hashtag one HUD. It's the same as hashtag one Suffern. This is the blueprint. Let's not fall into this trap. Our school system is not one size fits all. And please vote against this for this community.
Bryce Baruch.
Unfortunately, he's short like me.
Hi, everyone. My name is Olaf, and I like warm hugs. Really, my name is Bryce, but I'll be playing the part of Olaf at Viola's musical in March. This is my first year being part of the play. I love going to play practice every day I can, and I want to ask the Board of Education to not close my school. I don't understand why we are being taken out of the school we know and love, or why half of my friends are going to a different school. One of my closest friends will be going to another school, and it makes me so sad to think about everyone I'll be missing for a long time. I will miss my morning class with Felix that I've done since kindergarten, and I will miss stopping into my little brother's class to read books to his friends and see my old teachers. I have many friends, but it took time to make them, and every time a friend moves out of a town, like my best friend who went to Texas, I am never able to replace him. I really cannot imagine having to do this with all my friends. They make going to a school more fun, and I like to help my friends learn with me. I hope you think about that when you vote.
Thank you. Rebecca Phillips.
Good evening. Thank you for your time and for this opportunity. My name is Rebecca Phillips. I'm a parent of a first grade student at Viola Elementary. I am here tonight because I do not believe the plan as is in the best academic or social emotional interest of our elementary age children. First, I would like to say that my daughter's experience at Viola has exceeded my hopes and dreams for her early childhood education. As someone who has worked in numerous elementary schools, I can see that the work that goes on at Viola is top-notch. Like so many others, my child loves school. She loves her teachers, she loves her principal, and she is thriving. She cares about the community, takes pride in being a part of it, and feels like an important and valued person. When I go to the school with her, people throughout the building greet her and know her by name. I cannot tell you how much this means to our family. This year, her friendships have deepened as the kids have become more familiar and are truly getting to know each other. I'm heartbroken that this learning community was chosen to be closed and that so much of what she has gained will be lost. But I'm more devastated by the erratic plan and what she will go through for the next several years. This plan is designed to save the district money, but it fails to nurture our children developmentally. In this plan, our children are little bits of data to be flung around the district where numbers make sense, without regard to the impact on them and their families. While transportation and flip-flopping between schools would be hard on everyone, I do not understand how anyone can look at this plan and think that the children of Montebello and Sloatsburg got a deal that is fair or that serves them and their families. It simply doesn't make sense for our kids. It was a slap in the face at Viola School to hear Dr. Goodinson say that he knowingly put more of a strain and impact on our section of the district so as not to burden the other parts of the district. What conclusions are we to draw about the value of our children in neighborhoods? It's also been disappointing to hear that we are rushing through with restructuring because BOCES wants to rent Viola. As other districts consider grade banding, there's often a several-year rollout plan. The message to families seems to be that this is not about doing the right thing, but about taking advantage of an opportunity to make fast money. Our children should come before the needs and desires of BOCES. There is a false narrative being pushed that kids do better in larger social groups than in smaller ones. I have seen with my own eyes that this is not true. It should be intuitive. Kids are not different from adults in that we thrive in small, close-knit communities. A child who struggles to make a friend in a group of 40 is not going to have an easier time in a group of 140. Large groups are difficult for all humans, and in large schools, kids are constantly reshuffled year after year, causing them to have to start over year after year. All students have a more time feeling established and at home. I'm also
20
concerned
seconds.
about the academic impact that switching schools so many times have on our children. To end, we are all here tonight because we too believe in and want to be one Suffern. However, you don't become one Suffern by saying a slogan as you force decisions on people with a top-down, heavy-handed approach to district management. You become one Suffern by working with people. We encourage you and our superintendent to take more time to work with us and find a restructuring solution that more of your district can embrace. Thank you.
Kevin Gallupo.
Good evening, Board. My name is Kevin Gallupo. I'm a Viola parent. I would like to make 2 points, my opinion on the proposed plan and my perspective as a Viola parent. As a homeowner, I believe the plan is not attractive to young couples starting a family. Part of the reason my wife and I bought our house is because of the Viola Elementary School and the sense of community that it made us feel. Dr. Gunderson, in his October 3rd presentation, stated that his research looked at neighboring schools that used the Princeton Elementary School model. He pointed to South Orangetown District that used the true Princeton Elementary School model, where every 2 years students would transition to a new school. This is not true. They use the same modified version of the model that is being proposed here. In 2015, due to low enrollment, they changed from the true model to the modified model. As a matter of fact, they have the largest percentage decreased enrollment over the last 10 years, more than any other school in the county, any other district in the county, including Suffern. And they do not have the same private school issues that Suffern has. You can look it up. It was part of a low HUD article on decreased enrollment in schools in the Hudson Valley. My main concern is I don't know why, if this model has any play on their enrollment numbers, but I can say that it's definitely not helping it. And my worry is that it could accelerate the decreased enrollment issues that we are suffering. My second point is how this proposal disproportionately affects Viola students versus other elementary school students in the district. For those of you that do not understand, when Viola is closed, the students will attend all of the 4 remaining elementary schools. So students in the same grade will be divided between 2 different elementary schools based on where the student lives.
20 seconds.
In the Viola catchment area. We all know that this is that Viola is taking the brunt of this proposal restructuring. This is why Dr. Gunderson came to Viola to address us. It was a heated exchange. I thought after he would have a presentation, a slide that showed, hey, this is for you, Viola. This is the situation. This is the research we found. This is the stuff that we're gonna do to make sure that this transition goes smoothly. I did not see that. nor have I felt any relief to my anxiety.
Please try to wrap up. We're almost a minute over.
Okay. I asked the board to pause, come up with a real transition plan for Viola student. Let's see if there is a way to get Viola students in the same grade, under the same roof, for a transitionary period, especially the older students who have developed strong bonds and friendships over the years. If you choose to move forward, I ask that you appoint someone specifically to handle Viola's transition, as Dr. Gunderson's focus, as should be, is on the main plan. And Viola has a unique situation that needs to be specifically addressed.
Thank you.
Seth Phillips.
Good evening. My name is Seth Phillips. I oppose the plan. You can read more thoroughly about our opposition in our petition, which has nearly 1,000 signatures. It is well researched and all of the data is included. For this evening, I would like to touch on just the main points of why I oppose the plan. Most importantly, this plan is not in the best interest of education or well-being for our children. In fact, it is harmful. Only 2 years ago, my daughter celebrated her birthday in what amounted to a plastic box in pre-K. It was one of the saddest things I had ever seen to date in my daughter's life. Her friends were nowhere near her, just a child alone with a sad piece of cake and what looked like a plexiglass box. This was her third childcare setting in 2 years amidst the COVID crisis. We can all recall these days, and suffice to say, our experience was unfortunately not unique in any way, and I think that is the most important thing to remember here. All of our children are coming out of the most disruptive period in modern history. Only since Viola has our daughter and many other children finally found stability, familiarity, and community in her school. My child feels happy and loved. She is thriving. What a feeling of joy and relief. And then there is this proposal from the superintendent, a proposal that to anyone who takes a moment to look at it critically and think about it is designed not for our children, not for our community, and not for the best education for all stakeholders. It may be okay for a few, but it is far from the best plan for all of us. It is designed to save money. It is designed in a hurry to appease a potential lessee. It is designed for data points, and specifically by design, it will have all of our children disrupted once again, but not once, numerous times over, for some as many as 3 times in as many years, sent clear across the district and back again on a daily basis to a significantly larger school with larger classrooms and largely unfamiliar faces. Every presentation by the superintendent has been largely devoid of data or research showing how this is the best option and why others were not. All other options were merely dismissed in an offhanded way with no useful explanation for specifically why they are not viable. The same went for the so-called community input. For our superintendent, community input amounted to an opportunity for him to cherry pick the points he wanted to support the solution he already had and flat out ignore others. So now what you're looking at is a plan that puts many young children, the youngest in our district, in a situation where they will be experiencing nearly 8-hour days between waiting for the bus, the actual commute time, unloading, getting to class, school day, back again. This is much too long for these young children. Their adults, their communities, their commutes and school days will add up to more than what some adults do on a daily basis. So ultimately, your child will be spending more time commuting and less time in classrooms. Then when your child finally arrives at school, instead of a comforting group of small familiar faces, they will be faced with a sea of hundreds of faces. It will be like sending your child alone to a concert or sporting event as opposed to a family reunion. And by the time they finally reach the actual classroom,
20 seconds.
Our children will now be in larger, not smaller cohorts than before. And why are we doing this? Well, largely it appears because we need to make BOCES happy. East Ramapo fear-mongering abounds. We must do this immediately. Based on the superintendent's tone, you'd think the hordes were at our door and we need to save ourselves from some imminent peril. Nonsense. Take 2 minutes to look at the public record via the fiscal transparency data on the Department of Education website. The DOE website shows that Suffern Central has consistently ranked as low needs in the needs resource category with significantly above average ability to raise funding, and district student needs that are moderately less than state average. All of this doom and gloom is a passion play from the superintendent to convince you we have no other choice, and it is just not true. We have time to find a solution that is healthier and more healthier to more of the district, and will make us stronger and unite us and be fiscally sound. A solution that does not permanently and disproportionately punish certain children over others, as the superintendent has openly
Over
admitted.
time.
A solution that will not make a large section of our district compelled to sell their home and move further, weakening the school system. Thanks for the time.
Ethan Kendall.
Hello, my name is Ethan Kendall, and I am in the 4th grade at LP Connor. I really love my school and my community. I walk there in the morning, and I love my teachers. I want the chance to go to school with my little brother next year when he will be in kindergarten. This will be the only chance for us to go to school together. I am looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzanne Kronk.
Oh, okay. Not too good at this, but I'll try. Hi, my name is Suzanne Kronk. I have 2 children in the Suffern Central School District. My older daughter graduated RP Connor last year and is currently in 6th grade at Suffern Middle School. And my younger daughter is currently a 1st grader at RP Connor. I am an active member and hold a position on RP Connor's PTA. My family is having a lot of trouble with the changes that are being proposed in the elementary schools. When my 1st grader heard about the changes from another child on the bus one day, she came home sobbing. She couldn't understand why, after next year, she's going to have to leave her school that she loves so much. And no matter how much material we are given on how to talk to our kids about the changes, it's still very hard to make a 6-year-old truly understand. All of our kids are part of the generation of COVID kids. They had endured so much socially and emotionally. My family experienced something a bit more challenging. On March 12th, 2020, the day before the students were let out of school for the last time, my husband was diagnosed with AML, a very aggressive form of leukemia. Sorry. The world had shut down. My 2nd grader couldn't go to school and couldn't see her friends or even her father. That COVID year had a huge negative impact on her socially and emotionally. She is just now, after almost 4 years, starting to get back to her old self. One thing that helped her a great deal was joining the safety patrol at RP Connor last year, something that will be lost if the changes go through. She took so much pride in helping the kids in her little sister's kindergarten class to the bus every day, and I'm so thankful to our principal for accepting her into the safety patrol program. People keep saying, if COVID taught us anything, it's that our kids are resilient. Frankly, I'm sick of hearing it. I don't want to ask my kids to be resilient anymore. They've been through enough, and while it's no one's fault that my husband got sick during a worldwide pandemic, I don't think there's anything wrong with a little bit of comfort. For my kids and for all these kids, to be in the schools that they love so much, I deeply feel that ripping these kids out of their schools and shipping them all over the district will have a negative impact on them on all levels. Navigating the emotional trauma from all the change, I think, will definitely affect their learning. I ask that the board truly think deeply about what we all have to say. There has to be a better way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Keenan Hansen.
Hey, thanks for the time. I don't have anything prepared. I just wanted to make 2 quick points. First, I appreciate the thoughts of efficiencies and everything from the perspective of the board and the administrators and teachers. Sounds great. There was no compelling evidence that this plan would do better than any other plan or no plan in preventing the issues that occurred in East Ramapo. I would implore you to discuss that and how this would work. I know closing a school probably makes sense, but this is asking a lot for the main reason that Mr. Kern highlighted that transportation is going to be a nightmare. It is currently a nightmare. And you're asking, maybe I'm selfish, right? And I'm sure the kids are going to get a great education regardless. The teachers here are great, and the people here are great. But you're asking parents to double the amount of time that they have to allocate during working hours to drop off and pick up kids of elementary school age. And that's a huge burden to a huge number of families. And as the first speaker highlighted, this is going to encourage people to vote with their boots, you know, I being one of those. So I would suggest you reconsider this.
Justine Rodriguez.
Hi, my name is Justine Rodriguez. This is scary, but I am a concerned parent. I have 2 children at RP Connor and 1 soon to go to RP Connor, hopefully. I prepared a little something. My main concern is the 3rd and 4th graders. Our children, 3rd and 4th graders, have been uprooted from our schools since COVID. Last year was the first year they finally understand what a traditional school year looks like. This year, they have finally built a community in their schools. They have finally begun to feel safe. They have finally built relationships with their teachers, giving them the ability and actually being able to learn in a safe environment. And now we are possibly uprooting them again. And in a new school, it's not fair to our children. They have gone through so much already. What about the children with the special needs or are simply struggling with education? My children being one of them. Uprooting them now will disturb their education. I understand the programs that you guys are integrating into these other schools, but really, what is going to happen to our children? How are they going to be able to learn in an environment with so many new faces? It's not fair to them. They've just built these relationships. To take them away. I urge you to think about our children and how this uproot might hurt them, and not just the possibility of the children who might be fine. I think there's more children that won't be. Thank you.
Mike Parietti.
I'm Mike Parietti, 6 Spook Rock Road. I'll be brief. I think you said you didn't want to make the mistakes that they made in East Ramapo. Well, one of the biggest mistakes they made was closing those 2 schools, because shortly after they closed them, enrollment began to climb. And since then, it has climbed dramatically, and there is acute overcrowding in East Ramapo. And it's gotten really bad. I looked at the charts you showed here, and it shows at 2 or 3 of these schools, the enrollment appears to be bending back upward. And I think if you look at, we know we have the situation with the migrant situation in New York City, and whether you're for or against that, whether you're in favor of them coming here or against it, we may have no choice. That is still being litigated in the courts. The local courts have ruled in favor of the county, but that means nothing. It's going to have to go to the higher courts. That could easily change. And we may be required to incorporate the migrants in the community, and that will increase enrollment in the schools. There is also legislation from the state in regards to accessory apartments that I know a number of the municipalities are considering, where the money is going to be made available to villages where people can get $125,000 to put an accessory apartment onto their house. And there's a lot of pressure to pass these rules because of the incentive of the money coming in. I know Wesley Hills is looking at it in other areas. That could quickly increase the enrollment in the schools. New York City is also changing its homeless vouchers thing, where now they want to let homeless people from the city come out of the city and still get reimbursed by the city for wherever they find housing. that has been blocked locally, but again, that will be litigated at a higher level, and I find it hard to believe that the higher courts are going to uphold that. I don't prevent that either. Suffern, the village of Suffern is a growing area. There are 2 or 3 high-rise apartments that are just coming online now. There are more planned. That's a growing area. It's on a big transportation hub, the thruway, the train. It's a growing area. I think you really need to go back and reevaluate the whole premise of this plan is declining enrollment. Talk to the people in East Stroudsburg. I've been talking to them. They're saying the enrollment has gone up dramatically. They're overcrowded. And I really don't think you should let the BOCES situation have any impact on this at all, because first of all, BOCES will be here next year or the year after, or somebody will. If they want it, somebody else will want it. And I was told by the people in East Rampo that they are looking for space to lease. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. I really think you're rushing this. And I think that you really should think about taking another look at this whole thing with declining enrollment, because I think that might be something that would save us. I think the Princeton plan may look good on paper, but I don't think it's going to work in general. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I do think the last thing I'll say, Andrea, I just don't think you've given a very compelling reason as to why you're choosing to close Viola over Airmont. Viola, as I know, is the newest school we have, isn't it? And because I went to all the schools. I went to the Little Red Schoolhouse. I went to Cherry Lane. I went to Montebello. I went to Viola, and that's the order that they opened. I don't think it's a good. You have given a good rationale for closing Viola over Airmont. I don't think we should close any schools. It's unfair to any section, and it will destabilize the district. And like they said, people will vote with their boots. So I don't think the way you've gone about this would withstand a challenge with the New York State Board of Education, the Education Commissioner. So let's take a pause. Let's take a look at it and
over time.
Look at it.
Thank you.
Ian Hensinger.
Good evening. My name's Ian Hansinger. First, I ask if you could go back to the chart that shows the tremendous decline in Viola School. Can you bring that up, please? What caused that tremendous decline in Viola? Can you explain that real quickly?
No, we're not. We don't have the data in front of us to go back those 6-7 years right now. If you would like to you have a specific question, you're more than welcome.
Well, I just wanted to know if you could give a very quick answer as to the decline.
If you want to leave your information, we'd be happy to get that direct information to you.
Also, there's talk of BOCES moving into the Viola School. When I think of BOCES, I think of automotive, electrical, carpentry. Obviously, when I get the catalog from BOCES about the adult programs, there's computer things which I see could be done in that building. But that school would be limited to a very few things that it could do unless it was physically expanded upon so it could do the other courses that are offered by BOCES. And no one's explained how that would be broken down and what courses or how any of this would work. Also, we have people in this county who've come in and set up their schools specifically for them. And all we see as taxpayers, as residents, is more and more of these schools coming in, and they've already taken over a former school in Spring Valley. Is that what we're looking at here in Viola? As far as what I've seen and understand about what's going on here, it seems to be that we have a flight of families who just don't want any part of what's going on here in the town of Ramapo. And they'd rather live in other towns in the county that have their act together and aren't controlled by one voting block. When
20 seconds.
When I look at this, I constantly have to look at it through that lens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura Tomazowski.
Good evening. My name is Lara Brumnak Tomaszewski. I have son and a daughter. They're students at Montebello Elementary. We moved up here 7 years ago, and we moved to Montebello. It's a charming place, but also because of the proximity to the grammar school, to the middle school, to the high school. I realize times change, things change, but I think that this plan is quick to act and short on thought, primarily for the students who are going to have to go great distances for benefits that I don't really see concrete examples of in the plan. It's a very gray area, and I want to see more of that. I'm standing up here this evening for myself, for my husband, and also for other parents who could not be here this evening. So, you know, the busing in the morning, the driving in the morning, the picking up in the afternoon, all of those things, they need to be looked at. And I don't think that the benefits that you put forth in the proposed plan outweigh the negative. And speaking to other points being made this evening, people are going to vote with their boots, meaning you'll probably see more of a decline if this plan moves forward. Thank you for your time. I ask you to reconsider. I strongly oppose the proposed plan.
Jason Ander.
Hello, I'm Jason Ander. I have 2 children at RP Connor and one that's supposed to start next year. I'm here in opposition of the plan, and I'm here to assert that the Suffern Board of Education has been and continues to conduct business that is arbitrary and capricious related to the restructuring of our schools. And on July 5th, I spoke to the board relating to this reform and implored you to exercise your due diligence in analyzing and impact this plan would have on our children's education. And since that meeting, aside from tonight, I have seen limited evidence that there has been that due diligence. After the restructuring was first initially proposed on June 6th, the board president made the comment that the data had been analyzed for 6 to 8 months between the DM group, district administration to justify the proposal. And yet when I requested the documents and emails that went into creating that proposal between district administration, the Board of Education, and the DM group, the district's reply to that FOIL was that there were no records responsive to that request. How is it possible that the proposed whole system reform is based on no documented information? I asked you to consider a staggered implementation and again implore you to adjust this arbitrary timeline. Since that time, I've seen limited evidence of a strategic plan to execute this. Instead of working to do no harm to our children's current education, you clearly intend to build the plane while you're flying it, acting not in good faith, but in not taking the time to effectively plan for this whole system reform. This reform will take years to iron out and breed the efficiencies upon which you have been touting it, making the strategic plan all the more necessary because frankly, the people sitting at the table might not be there to implement it. If the board acts to adopt the reform on November 7th, I will act in ways that compel the board to address the concerns of its constituents, and I will put up every roadblock I can to delay the arbitrary action to create the necessary planning time that you have so obviously not utilized or consider a priority. You are gambling the long-term fiscal health of this district against our children's education in the short term. Thank you.
Mill Ateen.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Millie Tien. I have 2 children who attend Viola Elementary School, and I'm also the chief of neurology here at Good Samaritan Hospital. Last night, I actually sent you all a letter, and I talked about adverse childhood experiences, and I shared with you a couple articles that I've written on the topic. And right after I sent the article, I was reading a medical journal, the Journal of American, the Pediatrics Journal. And the article basically said it is really important that school boards have physicians on the board, particularly pediatricians. And they didn't say neurologists, which I read the article. I said, I'm going to write a response that they should actually even consider neurologists. Because having someone who understands brain development and what our children are going through, which is what this is all about, right? And they said, not everybody can have a doctor or a pediatrician or a neurologist, a developmental pediatrician to understand these concepts. If you don't have that person on the board, then you consult with one of them as you make really important decisions. And really, what I've seen tonight is I heard the board's message and I started being swayed. I said, oh wow, this makes a lot of sense. And then I heard all the parents, everybody around me, who basically have rejected this plan. And these are the constituents, these are the people who voted for you. And it's very clear for all of us that this is not a good idea. I haven't heard anybody come out and say, great job, you guys really killed it. You guys did a really wonderful job representing us. And it hasn't happened. And it saddens me really to actually see this. I was happy because Mrs. Hodge, I believe, was the one person on the board who actually asked the question about emotional development and how this change is going to impact the children. And the answer was, I don't remember what the answer was. I actually was going to say I'm not going to even get up and talk because after I heard the question, but then the answer, it wasn't really answered. So I said, yeah, I'm still going to have to come up and speak because really, it's really important. My children are in first grade. Now they're going to go to second grade at another school, I guess next year. And then after that, they'll go to third grade. If you read the paper I sent you, these frequent changes really impact the child's development. And you might not see it right now. It might not be till 3, 4, 5, 6, or 10 years from now that you start to see the anxiety and all these other things that actually end up happening because of the fact that that was not taken into account as you make this vote, as you make this decision.
20 seconds.
And really most of the arguments I heard were pretty much sounded very much financial and convenient. And what I'm hearing from the parents and from the children who spoke was the emotional development and the brain development, which to me is the most important thing. And if you vote against that, it's extremely disappointing. And that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Brian McClellan. Brian McClellan. Ava Torres. Joseph Gravagna.
My name is Joseph Gravagna. My son Joseph is in Viola, and my daughter Liv is in the middle school. I ran for the school board last year, and I spoke the entire campaign about closing a school. And I asked Mr. Donnelly, I asked the other Paul Shapiro, and they were dead set against closing a school. I don't know if they've changed that mind, but I'm assuming they probably haven't yet. That's just my gut feeling. Maybe I'm wrong. They're very upstanding citizens, very respectful. And now to this year's school board elections coming up. There's 3 board members are up this year. I can't speak for Mr. Frazier or the rest of them, but the good politicians. They're not going to vote to close the school. Because they know that they close the school, they'll be out of the seat next year. The people here are pissed. We're taking this to the state board to rule on it after this board rules against it. If we have to tell you in court, we will, as parents. And I'm asking the school board, Mr. Gunderson, what is your plan when the parents who are furious right now stop it? And as far as BOCES is concerned, no one cares about BOCES, okay, at all. If you want to close a building, close your building, the administrative building. Move your staff into a small building, okay? That's what you do. That's our plan as parents, okay? So you're not going to close the school this year, guys, okay? We're going to tie up in court. we're going to stop you. Okay? And if the board that are up this year think they're going to vote to close the school, and I doubt they will, because I said, I know some of the board members, Mr. Fraser, a good friend of mine, he's not going to close the school. Okay? No way you're going to close it, Mr. Fraser. I doubt it. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay? I doubt it, though. The kids come first here. Kids are, my son Joseph loves Viola. He's going to grow well in the school. And I really hope this board comes to their senses. And I really hope the board gets a second plan from Mr. Gunderson, okay, as to what is the plan for next year when it doesn't close, because we're going to tie up in court. Have a nice day, guys. See you in court.
John Rice.
Hi, my name's John Rice, and my daughter goes to Viola. I oppose this. This is about not enough kids in the school and stuff, right? I work at another district, and we've gotten a new student every day since the school started. How many kids have you gotten since school started this year in elementary school? Do you know? How many kids have enrolled this year? You don't know?
This is not a question and answer period. This is a comment period.
Okay, well, I'm sure that is going up like my district is. You're right, my daughter is resilient. I don't want her to be resilient. I want her to be happy. Okay, that's and I'm very so. From what I understand from the mayor's man here, the mayor is against it, and I don't care what anybody thinks about this mayor. I know this mayor, and he's got his finger on the pulse of everything in this county. And if he says no, he's done his due diligence, and you're trying to bulldoze this through on us. Way too fast, way too fast. And project management, I was in construction for years, big jobs in the city and stuff. Project management is nothing but money. Nobody has looked at these children once with these people that you hired. We didn't hire them, you hired them. Thank you.
Daryl Schiller.
Hi, my name is Daryl Schiller. I wasn't planning on talking today. I just was going to come and listen. But hearing everybody talk, I felt like I was taking some notes. I know that I'm going to be questioned by my wife when I get back home about what happened. But the more notes I took, the more questions I had. I know this is not a question and answer session, so I'm just going to try to phrase them as rhetorical questions put out to you guys. I have 3 kids that are in or through the district already. I've been through a lot of the different ups and downs in different parts of this district. And the first thing I really thought about is the data on inefficiency. And Dr. Gunson's talking about how this is going to become more efficient, and the problems are going to be continuing with an inefficient system if this doesn't get approved. And I don't know if the data has been made public. I don't know what there is to support the fact that there is a level of inefficiency that needs to be modified at this point. And if there is, what kind of cost savings is that modification going to do? Kind of what Mr. Alpert had said before about the tax burden. What additional services will be added to the school by improving the efficiency? Assuming there's a change in efficiency, there's going to be a savings somewhere. So where is that savings going? Is it going to increase services? Is it going to come back to us in taxes? Other thing that I thought about was the busing, and the fact that I have been in this district for 14 maybe years at this point, and been through all the different changes with the elementary school, early schedule, late schedule. I just know that it's an incredible burden on families. It's been an incredible burden for over a decade for me, having kids in multiple schools and trying to have a working family, trying to be able to figure out childcare, hire babysitters, hire early care, figure out who's going to be home afterwards. I feel like this process of trying to stagger the buses even further is going to create an additional burden on working families. I'm concerned about the teachers that are currently at Viola. I'm married to a teacher. I'm married to a teacher who is having a difficult time trying to find work within this county because teaching jobs are so slim for full-time teachers. So what's going to happen to the teachers, especially the tenured teachers that are already in Viola School? Where are they going, and what's going to be the impact on the other people who are looking for teacher jobs, or the students who've recently graduated who are looking to go into education and want to stay within the county. One of my concerns was if this district is shrinking so much that looking at eliminating an elementary school, I'm curious about what the thoughts are with the middle school and the high school, because there are other things that affect the school district. It's not just the elementary school.
20 seconds.
So I don't know if there's been any thought in what's going to happen with those schools overall if you have 500 fewer students entering those schools. And as everyone has stated before, what other options have been explored? I don't know if there has been an assessment of other potential options, or if this has become the option for either financial reasons, because in the literature, because some other neighboring schools within New Jersey or even within the county are doing similar things. What other options have been explored? Overall, I don't approve of this plan. And listening to the families here, I hope that the board hasn't already made a decision, because to me, it sounds like there's very strong resentment of moving forward with this plan.
Thank you.
Laura Keating.
Good evening. I'm a mother of 2 elementary students. The budgetary advantages of the elementary grade span are offset by the negative impact on the student's educational experience. The classical K-5 grammar school experience instills studious habits, decorum, and respect. It promotes the love of order, of precise and edifying language, and of objective standards of goodness, truth, and beauty. And more than anything, it invites students to delight in the rich variety of the natural and human world. Research had found a significant achievement loss during each transition year. Some students regain what is lost the following year, but researchers state that students who make fewer transitions need fewer years to make up for achievement losses caused by these transitions. Another study found that every time students change schools, their feelings of anonymity or invisibility increased. Researchers also concluded that the protected elementary school setting made the entry into adolescence less stressful for both boys and girls. The students who had not had the stress of earlier transitions seemed to cope better with the transition into middle and high school than other students did. I implore you, please do not do this to our young children.
Silvana Giordano.
Hi, my name is Silvana Giordano. I did not intend on coming up today. I have 2 very small children. I spoke at the last board meeting. My son is 6 years old and receives services and has completely blossomed at Viola. He loves his school. His little sister loves school, and she loves that she goes to school with her brother. My son worked very hard to get where he is. He still works very hard, as his teachers told me last week. He's very eager to please. He works very hard, as I said. These kids went through so much during COVID, and as everyone here has said so eloquently, I implore you to please reconsider this decision. I understand that you have data points that you are working with, but those are just numbers and graphs. These are real children that this is affecting. And you have so many trained professionals within the community, so many concerned parents that are so fully invested in this, that are willing to help come up with a better plan. There has to be a better way to approach this. The buses are a mess. To say that a half hour is a selling point is a slap in the face, because it'll never be a half hour. It just won't. I did not even feel comfortable putting when he was a kindergartner last year, putting him on the bus then, and that we live 3 minutes away from the school. To say that I have to send him all the way to Sloatsburg, both of them, is, again, a slap in the face. I don't see how this is feasible. I don't see how families that move to this area have to now send our kids to a completely different town. With all due respect to Sloatsburg, I didn't move to Montebello to send my kids to Sloatsburg to school. I really hope you reconsider, because I feel like we're shooting ourselves in the foot. I think that's the saying, by doing this, because if anything, I think it's going to drive families out of the area, because we didn't move to send our, you know what I'm saying. This is just, I really hope you reconsider. I really hope you reach out to the community to come up with a better plan. Thank you.
Amelia Vega.
I really like my school, and my name's Emmy. I really like my school. My teacher's so nice. I really like math, and I really like going to Viola. I don't want to leave, and I don't want to go. Why do we have to cancel Viola? I want to keep it. I just really love math, and I love reading. I love my teacher. She's really kind. I just really don't want to go. Everything's so great. Viola's my only place I want to be.
Blair Posnick.
I would thank you for your time and hearing us out today, but I feel like this is a checkbox, that you're doing it because we wanted to hear something. You're not answering questions. When do you answer questions? On a one-off basis so that it's word of mouth and it trickles through, and then it's too late because you've already made your decision. We've sat here time and time again being told that the decisions haven't been made. Why was a document sent home on how to walk my kid through the transition if it wasn't already done? Well, I took your advice, and I did talk to my child about it, and I tried to have the best outcome and try and tell her we have her best interest at heart, and it's a lie. I'm lying as a parent to my child. No one came to our school and spoke to the children with whom you're affecting with these decisions. I walked my daughter through the steps of what was going to happen. We have close friends that are at Cherry Lane, which is where we would be switching to. It did nothing. My daughter looked at me in fear. She looked at me upset and couldn't understand it. We're asking young children to take on something that we as adults would be so uncomfortable with, and if it was a job, we'd probably look somewhere else because our employers did not have our best interest at heart. We talk about transportation. Yeah, the buses are a mess. My daughter, 45 minutes late for the first month of school. I called our schools and asked. They said, you got to call the bus company. It's up to them. They told me it's on you. It took another 2 weeks to get my child home on time. We've missed activities. Now I ask you, what about the families that don't have cars, that can't get to a school in Sloatsburg because they're able to walk to be a part of their child's life and a part of their school activities? You're taking it away from people because you think this is the best decision. It's not. You're going to harm a lot of people in the making. We talk about safety patrol. That's something we want our children to learn responsibility, how to care for other people, which is not what's happening here. My daughter has such a bond with her safety patrol, and her safety patrol in return had that bond. She is messenger friends with girls in middle school who are checking in to make sure she's still happy at school. Well, how does that happen? We had a fire alarm go off at one of our events. My daughter was terrified as a kindergartner, found her safety patrol, who walked her out safely and spoke to her calmly until they found me. Who's taking care of my child when a situation like that happens? Because of it, my daughter wants to be a safety patrol, to be the person that's there, and yeah, guess what? It would be her sibling as well. There's so much more that goes into these decisions than the data. We can all pull up articles about things that will counter what you're saying, but when are you gonna come and talk to the kids? Have you? I know it's not a question and answer. You can give it to me as a one-off. I get it. But what I'm asking is that you remove the data and you look at our kids and you look at what you're doing, because your kids are not in the school. I know it's 30 seconds. No one stopped you every single time you gave the same presentation, the same data, and no answers. We've prepared for you to hear it, and I know you're not all listening. Thank you. I got it, 20
Thank you.
seconds. I'm all set.
Thanks.
Carlos Sierra.
Good evening, Carlos Sierra here. How you guys doing? I'm gonna just keep this short. You don't have to answer this now. I know you guys won't, but I'm hoping this question is in people's mind. What is the board doing from preventing this to happen again? Further down in another 5-10 years, are you guys trying to solve the issue which got us here? Because what would be the point of all this if it's gonna happen again? Thank you.
Melody Van Dorn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Melanie Van Dorn, and I've been a district resident since 2011, and a very active and committed Viola parent since 2016, when my eldest entered kindergarten. I have 3 children in the district, one of whom is currently in 1st grade, and so this plan is going to directly impact my family. Despite the displacement this will cause and the myriad of changes my family will be subjected to with a plan like this in place, I'm here to share my support of Dr. Gunderson's restructuring plan. In my experience, change doesn't happen for the sake of change. There is always a catalyst or a shifting condition that necessitates such change. As I meant, this changing condition for our district that needs to be addressed while we can still control it, while we still have a voice, is the declining kindergarten registration in the general elementary school population. So much energy, time, and productivity have to be expended to initiate a change of this magnitude, and I trust Dr. Gunderson would not put all that on the line for something he did not wholeheartedly believe was in the best interest of our students of this district as a whole. Moreover, as a taxpayer, the district has a fiduciary responsibility to ensure it is utilizing our tax dollars in the most efficient way possible. I would take great issue if the district were to continue to plow funding to support a dwindling school population that could have otherwise been consolidated and better served in a right-sized model with cost redundancies minimized. I view this plan as seeking to address this and ensuring the district is being fiscally responsible while also planning for the future. Now, I mentioned I've been a part of Viola. I have one foot fully planted there, but my other foot is positioned forward in a current swing state, catching air and momentum as I bear witness to the educational experiences my eldest is having in the middle school, and as I hear and learn more about the high quality education, enrichment, and sports afforded to our high school students. I have the benefit of being able to see the value of our district from multiple perspectives. Having that view beyond elementary school and seeing what's ahead for my children, I want to protect that, not just for them, but for my community today and tomorrow. For me, I will accept the displacement this plan creates for my family in the short term, if that means it can strengthen the district's position to continue to deliver a high quality education to our children and potentially enhance the experiences our young learners can have at the start of their educational journey. As a parent, I always take the long view with any decision I make. What do I need to do now to set my family and my children up for the best success in the future? For me, Dr. Gunderson's elementary school plan is that positive long view.
20 seconds.
Will there be adjustments and some growing pains that my family will have to endure to accommodate this plan? Yes. What makes this decision palatable for me is that I believe this plan is the best decision for the community as a whole, one that will provide the greatest good for the greatest number, For our district and for all the students and families across the 7 schools and across the community at large, I view this plan as being the option that will benefit the greatest number, even if it means displacing my own. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Hogue.
Good evening to everybody. My name is Angela Hogue. I'm a mother to 2 beautiful kids, and I'm also a village trustee. And I oppose to this cold-heartedly. And I'm gonna speak to you as a mother. Okay, my family and I moved from the city. We looked for schools that were top-notch, and we found one. And that is what we decided as a family to move and have our children go to Richard P. Connor. That school it's amazing, like every other school. But at the end of the day, you're telling us our kids are resilient and all and above. I get it, but that's not our children's job. Our children's job is to go to school, to learn, feel safe, and have consistency. You want our kids to go from kindergarten to second, then to third, fourth, and fifth, and then that's not consistent. They need something that a community in which they can feel whole. And I just think that this is not, I bought my house. You're making me feel as if you're choosing where my child has to go. I'm the parent. I choose where my children go to school. If I chose Richard P. Connor, that is the school that I'm choosing for him to go to. If I wanted my son to go to Montebello, then my child would have been going to Montebello. He's gonna go from Richard P. Connor to Cherry Lane. What about if I don't want him to go to Cherry Lane? What about when I want him to go to Montebello? You're not giving me an option. And at the end of the day, parents should have the decision on where their children go for their education. Thank you.
Dawn Christensen.
Hi, I'm Dawn Christensen. I was not planning to speak. I'm not going to present data or many facts. I'm just going to speak, as many others, as a mother with a child that I have stood in front of the board fighting for his right to be taught in a way he needed to learn as a dyslexic learner. My group has fought so hard and has been instrumental in creating some change for struggling learners, creating more opportunity for structured literacy and multisensory learning and specialized teachers. He is finally feeling safe. Viola is his home. He said when he heard of this change, he will start a petition. He will not go to Montebello. He will sit in front of Viola when Viola starts. I can't even imagine how I'm going to get him to go to school, quite frankly. He's been quite school avoidant because of his difficulties in learning in the way that it was being presented to him. COVID hit our family extremely hard, as it did many people. Our family was hit physically, financially, emotionally, as many were. To now, when he's finally feeling safe in 4th grade, when COVID hit, when he was in kindergarten, now he's being asked to go to an entirely new school where half of his friends, no, more than half of his friends, are not going to be coming with him to Montebello because of where they live. They're going to be going to Cherry Lane. Certain kids are not as able to meet transitions and flexibility. He is one of them. It is very difficult. He wanted to come and speak. He wanted to create a petition. He's going to sit in front of Viola and not go to Montebello. And the reason he's not here is it's too deep in him. And I have to separate him from all that is going on so that I can actually get him to go to school and that he can have a semi-normal year, because COVID didn't allow them for so many years. He asked me, Mom, when you went to school, did you have to wear a mask? They don't know normal. Finally, they know normal. In order to learn, a child needs to feel safe. I don't think you're going to be able to create safety for him in 1 year. It's just too much to handle. And they've already handled so much. So I really implore the board to look through the eyes of a child, these specific children who have gone through a pandemic, like none of you have when you were in elementary school. And then add
20
into that
seconds.
a struggling learner who has difficulty with anxiety and transitions. And now you tell him leave and leave half of your friends. And then tell me how you're going to create a teacher that knows him when every teacher knows him in that school. I have talked, gotten the IEP, gotten him feeling secure. How is that going to happen by next year for him? It really, in my eyes, I don't think it can. And I know I'm not alone in that. Thank you.
Kelly Del Duca.
Hi, my name is Kelly Del Duca. I have a high school junior, so some of you might think that this isn't affecting me, but I do have nephews in the district and a niece, and I also work for Rockland BOCES. So to hear a lot of you make comments that BOCES isn't necessary or we don't care about BOCES, or in the same sentence you guys want to talk about saving money, and I'm talking to the parents, sorry, not really you. It costs thousands of dollars to send a child to Rockland BOCES, so if anything, we're saving money trying to keep children in their own school building. And also, Dr. Gunderson could have easily sold this building to somebody, and he's not selling it to BOCES. He's, from what I understand, letting BOCES use the building. So if we were to need it back, we can take it back. So that's one thing. Another thing is, I've also, I live in Sloatsburg, so I have a question for some of the parents who are truly against this. Are you against it because your kids need to get on a bus and go to Sloatsburg? Would you be as against it if your child had to get on a bus and just go up to the road to Montebello? Yes, okay, that's fair enough. I've been here since June 6th. June 6th is the first date that Dr. Gunderson had presented this to everybody. And I can look around and there might be 4 faces that I recognize that have been here at every single presentation that Dr. Gunderson has given. I'll be honest, when this first happened, I was against it. I grew up in Sloatsburg. I graduated from Suffern High School. I have a daughter that's about to graduate from Suffern High School. And I just think you guys are forgetting, and I understand you bought a house for, say, Montebello, but you bought a house in the Suffern Central School District, okay? You didn't buy a house for Montebello Elementary School. Okay, but it's still a Suffern Central education. Everybody.
Can we please afford the respect for the speaker?
I'm just saying.
I don't know.
I just said I'm asking a question. I'm just making a point that we spent the last year promoting one Suffern, and this whole ordeal is the total opposite, okay? Everyone graduates as a Suffern Mountie. I get it. I went to Sloatsburg. I would love my nephews to graduate from the school that I graduated from and that my daughter graduated from. But it's not, it will not be a possibility if Dr. Gunderson does not do this. We will close not just one, but 2 buildings.
20 seconds.
We will. And by the way, BOCES works for special ed kids, not just carpentry. Just an FYI. Okay, thank you.
Megan Lenny.
Hi, my name is Megan Lenny.
Thank you.
I'm a parent in the district. I have a unique perspective. Years ago, when my son was about to go into 2nd grade, I moved just a few blocks away, and I called the secretary at the elementary school to make sure everything was good. I moved to a street that had always been in the same catchment for as long as I could remember. And they told me, oh my gosh, you're zoned for Viola. I'm sorry, I'm already getting emotional. This is scary. And I was shocked. I moved into the house that my sister had just moved out of. Her daughter graduated RP Connor. I was like, what? Okay. So I actually went back and forth with Miss Weber. And finally, after back and forth, I was able to keep my son where I wanted him to be. He was receiving services. He has anxiety. He has, learning issues. And we got through elementary school. And nobody knew. I combed through emails to see, when did this happen? When did this redrawing of the lines happen? There was not one communication about it. Maybe it happened here at a board meeting. Totally understand. I haven't been to one. I'm one of those people. But, when lines are redrawn, I figured I'd know about it. Anyway, we made it through elementary school. He graduated, but I was told that my subsequent children would have to go to Viola. So I ended up with my two kids for his last 2 years and her first 2 years in Viola and Connor. And my daughter had an amazing experience at Viola. She loved it. She loves her friends there, the teachers, everything about it. I knew what I wanted for my child. So for 2 years, I was figuring out how I could get back into the catchment of RP Connor. And again, no disrespect to Viola. Her experience was amazing there. I knew my community. I knew my neighbors. I wanted back in. And we just moved back into the catchment. And here we are about to talk about that she's going to have to go to a different school for the third time in 3 years. And like others have said, I don't want my kid to be resilient. We've had to do that already. I don't want to be resilient anymore. It's hard on the kids. It's hard on us. Like, let's be real here. Anyway, I'm opposed to it, as I know a lot of others are.
Seconds.
And maybe if I saw a longer term, like others have said, we need more time. This is crazy for something like this to be proposed in June and happen in a year later. Insane to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was everybody that was on the list from the QR code. So is there anybody that did not put their name down that still wishes to speak?
My name is Judy Bruno. I don't have a child that will be affected by this change. My oldest is a junior in college and youngest is a junior in the high school. Thank you to the board for making hard decisions. I know that some of you graduated from Suffern, sent your children to Suffern, and some have grandchildren who attend Suffern. I'm sure these are not easy decisions for any of you to make. It's never easy to see the district near and dear to your heart change. I really understand that. I grew up in Rockland and attended East Ramapo schools. East Ramapo is the best district in the county, better than Suffern. East Ramapo has a long history and it unfolded much like Suffern is now. How different would East Ramapo look if Jack Anderson, the former superintendent for East Ramapo, and the board had recommended what Dr. Gunderson and this board are recommending? Think about that. I found an article that was written in 1995 and published in the New York Times. It is very relevant to what's going on in Suffern currently. Once a region of rural farmlands with patches of summer bungalow colonies, this community grew into New York suburb in the 1960s and 70s. In the 60s, the growth was so fast that the public schools could not be built fast enough. Private school families began to settle in large numbers in the late 70s. And when they did, they began building schools. At the same time, enrollment in the public schools began to decline. to 9,110 in the 1993-94 school year, from 16,718 in 1971. In the same period, private school enrollment multiplied 348% to 8,435 students from 1,881. Mr. Anderson said schools seem to virtually appear overnight. There are probably similar statistics about Suffern. I understand the situation is upsetting and frustrating. You don't want to uproot your children from the school they know. Please don't vote down any school budgets, and be careful who you vote for to sit on the public school board. Even if you did not grow up here, you know about the history of East Rampa. This change is trying to prevent that from happening here. Again, I want to thank Dr. Gunderson and the board for trying to do what's right fit for our changing school district.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay. Thank you to everybody who came tonight. Thank you for all the speakers who came and voiced their opinions. At this time, we are going to close the public hearing and recall to order the regular meeting of the Suffern Central Board of Education, Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. Let the record reflect all board members are present with the exception of Mr. Paul Shapiro. Please rise for the pledge.
Flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands.
I'm not even sure if our student is still here. No, she left? Okay. All right. We're going to skip the student report. Go to 1.09, minutes of the regular meeting of October 3rd, 2023. Do I have a motion? Was that Mr. Frazier? Second? Mrs. Hodge? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? 1.10, superintendent comments?
Thank you very much, Mr. Kern. I'd like to express my appreciation to the speakers this evening, the folks from the public who got up to speak. I value very much your contributions. I've been in communication with some of you, and if there were several folks who had specific questions, I urge you again, you can send me an email, call me, and I'm happy to share some more insight and any information that you may need. I'd like to also thank members of our team that have been meeting weekly now for the better part of a year to be developing this program to get to where we are right now. With regards to my superintendent's comments, I was excited to have Mr. Breen go ahead and present to the Board of Education and the public about his role as Director of Security for the school district, among other things. But I also recognize that the time is somewhat late this evening, and we had a lot of public commentary, so I think we're going to wait until perhaps the next board meeting or the board meeting after that to get the update. But I would like to just highlight the fact that Mr. Breen has been taking the security role here in the district, a new role to our district, very seriously. And just today, he was working with a security consulting firm, training our principals and our teachers in charge on incident command protocols for emergency situations. Many of you may recall that we had a swatting incident at the high school several weeks ago. That took place in an unstructured time before school even started, and we have certainly learned a lot from that experience, and Mr. Breen will share some of the work that we're doing, both with regards to incidents and overall security as well. So I know I didn't even touch on 10% of your presentation, but it's something that's important for the board and the community to hear. On a very happy note, we had a wonderful Spirit Week last week here at the high school that culminated in a lot of great events at the end of the week especially, and a very successful homecoming dance, which a lot of students attended and was very successful. Our athletic fall season is coming to a close, and we have several teams that are now placing in the sectional tournaments, and we look forward to their success. And for those teams whose regular seasons ended and that ended their season, many of those teams had very positive aspects to their season. I want to congratulate them on a job well done. Middle school continues to move forward with great events centered on Leader and Me, and thus concludes my superintendent's report. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. 1.11, public participation. This is public participation on action items only. If there is any public comment on the action items for tonight, please approach the podium. Seeing as there are none, we will close that portion of the meeting and move to our action items. Tonight, we have action items 2.01 through 2.10. Are there any items anyone wishes to pull from a consent agenda at this time? No? Okay, I'm going to pull action item 2.02. So I will call for a consent agenda for action items 2.01 and 2.03 through 2.10. Do I have a motion? Ms. Dickman, second. Dr. Nippon. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? 2.02, this is the Civil Service Personnel Report. Do I have a motion? Mr. Donnelly, second. Mr. Frazier. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those against? I abstain to Roman numeral 7 of the Civil Service Personnel Report. Okay, thank you very much. 6.01, board member comments. Are there any board member comments at this time? Any board member comments? No? Okay. 7.01, public participation. This is public participation on any district-related business. If you wish to address the board and the superintendent on any district-related matters, please approach the podium. Seeing as there are none, we will close that portion of the meeting. 8.01, superintendent closing comments.
I have no further comments.
Thank you very much. 9.01, this is the motion to adjourn. And before we do make that motion, as always, I just would like to say thank you to everybody who came tonight. Thank you to Dr. Gunderson and to administration here for answering our questions earlier during the initial presentation, for answering the specific questions that the board had, and for staying through the public hearing. Again, I would like to thank all the members of the public who came out to speak tonight. There is no way for any change to happen without people feeling disrupted or hurt or any other feeling that many parents feel about their kids and about the proposed changes. It is completely normal and natural, and I certainly do sympathize with everybody that came out and spoke tonight. I appreciate everybody coming to speak their voice, and this board will vote on this proposal at our next meeting, which will be in 2 weeks, Tuesday, November 7th. We will likely be back at Hilburn for that meeting. So with that, I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Ms. Dickman, there's a second. Mrs. Hodge. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you all very much. This meeting is adjourned. We will see you in 2 weeks.